President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
The day a nation stood still, November 22, 1963, when President John F. Kennedy was struck down traveling through Dealey Plaza in downtown Dallas.
If it was just one guy, how come there's so much secrecy? That's what bothers a lot of people. 2
investigations and more than 30 years later, Congress establishes the Assassination Records Review Board to declassify evidence linked to President Kennedy's death. Gary Mack, curator of the 6th Floor Museum.
They weren't investigating the assassination, they were investigating the records of the assassination.
In 1995, a then 28-year-old investigator was called to be part of a nationwide search to track down evidence.
I felt as though a great amount of responsibility had been placed on me and that I had better take it seriously.
David Montague, now a professor at UALR, served on the review board from 1995 until 1997 as a senior investigator.
The president was killed in '63, and so I had no take when I was hired, and I think that's one of the reasons they hired me, is because I wasn't single bullet theory person, I wasn't conspiracy theory person. I had no view.
After Congress passed the JFK Act in 1992, Montague and the review board gained all access to evidence, documents, and classified information linked to the assassination.
Finding people, arranging for interviews. I mean, it's a rewarding feeling where no one's heard from this person in 20 years, 30 years. And then because of the training that I received to be able to track that person down, it's a lot easier nowadays, with the internet and so forth, but we're talking mid-90s here.
Now, these are scenes at a building across the street from the scene where President Kennedy was shot.
Montague's search landed in the thick of JFK evidence. He literally rolled out the negative of the Zapruder film, the most recognized footage of the assassination. He looked at the president's clothes from the day of the shooting and searched the belongings of Lee Harvey Oswald.
My belief was that I should keep the net wide open if anyone made any allegation of something, rather than simply saying, oh, that doesn't make sense on the surface, next project.
A senseless crime against a man still mourned to this day, and a moment filled with unanswered questions.
All around town, police, sheriff's deputies, and Secret Service men were following every possible lead, every possible clue in an effort to come up with some kind of lead to the assassin.
Dustin Wilson, THV 11 News. Dr. David Montague told us his goal while on the board was to keep an open mind and gather as much evidence as possible to give the public information with substance. During his investigation, Montague interviewed interesting people, looked at top secret evidence, and opened up old sources to shed light on JFK's death.
The crime of the 20th century.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
I couldn't believe it, that's all. Just couldn't believe it.
Nearly 50 years later, and many still wonder how JFK was killed. The former senior investigator of the Assassination Records Review Board, Dr. David Montague, now teaches criminal justice at UALR and was granted all access to Kennedy evidence at the National Archives.
We also saw the pink outfit that Jackie Kennedy wore, and we saw the president's suit and so forth. We were right there with it, and the rifle, the magic bullet, CE-39, Commission Exhibit 399, all of those different types of artifacts really do something that no textbook can prepare you for.
Montague studied the actual footage shot by Abraham Zapruder right here the day of the assassination, and experts say Zapruder's secretary actually held his feet and stabilized his legs the day of the shooting.
Rolled it out on the table, and all took turns looking and kind of we're very careful not to actually physically touch. I did not touch the film.
During his investigation, Dr. Montague followed the intriguing storyline of Jim Tague, a Dallas man who claimed he was struck by a concrete fragment caused by a bullet. Tague recalls the moments leading up to the shooting as he stood near the triple underpass.
And I'm standing there and thoughts going through my mind, what a kind of idiot, and why is there a firecracker? And then the crack of two rifle shots right after themselves.
According to Tague, he then quickly took cover, and moments later, in the midst of chaos, Dallas County Sheriff's Deputy Buddy Walters walked up to him.
He looked up at me and he says, "You got blood on your cheek." And I reached up, and I did have. He says, "Where were you standing?" I says, "Back over there on the other side of Maine, between Maine and Commerce."
During Montague's interview with Tague, the now 76-year-old shared his grief after naysayers discredited his story.
This is somebody that was very, very upset. He was excited to be there that day in Dealey Plaza, and it's just like anybody would be, just seeing the most public figure in the world, and then for something, for someone to make up a statement like that, he just never understood why people gave him such a hard time.
In 1998, Dr. Montague and the Review Board published a more than 200-page report and submitted it to President Clinton. The report showed evidence, interviews, and law enforcement records. Despite the lengthy effort by the board, Montague questions why portions of the evidence remain hidden from the public. Your walk-away feeling after 2 years of investigation.
I just wonder how one person could have done that by themselves. I just don't know. Now, there's some people that would disagree with me, or some people that might even say that I'm biased.
No matter the opinion, idea, conspiracy, or thought, it's clear this man left a legacy. On this day, 49 years ago, the country lost its president.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Dr. Montague is currently working on a book recalling his time on the Review Board. He says many times it's hard for him to fathom being a small part of the story that shook the nation.